O my Lord, open for me my chest, grant me self-confidence, contentment and boldness, and ease my task for me, and loose the knot from my tongue, that they may understand my speech. Rabbi zidni ilma. O my Lord, increase me in knowledge. Allahumma faqihni fi din. O Allah, grant me the understanding of deen. Assalamu alaikum, dear sisters. Hope you had a wonderful Eid break. And now you're raring to go with the class. So if you remember the last time we had class, which was 4 weeks ago, we went over Sura Ar Rum. So we'll just do the sort of like a recap to remind ourselves what we actually learned. We learned from Sura Ar Rum. We did the last part of Sura Ar Rum. So it was from ayah number 45 to 69, so that was the second half. We had done the first half the week before. So we learned that salah is a barrier between evil and us. So when we are praying, it keeps us away from a lot of evil. It keeps us away from a lot of mischief. It keeps us away from al-fahisha. So our salah is, for us, it's one of those things that it actually keeps you on the straight and narrow. So your salah is something that you should make sure that you are on top of. Don't put your salah sort of like in your timetable for as and when. Make your timetable around your salah. So you don't need to be working your salah around your day. You need to be working your day around your salah. And we learned that, okay, so you're not going to be praying all day long. You're not going to have be doing salah all day long. So the other way to keep yourself alive, keep your heart alive, keep yourself ticking over, keep yourself close to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, was to keep yourself busy with the zikr of Allah. And that doesn't have to be sort of like, people always think that we have to do difficult stuff in order to benefit. But it can be something really simple like Subhanallah, 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 Allahu Akbar. Something really, really simple and short. And that can bring your heart a lot of tranquility. It is the dhikr of Allah. And the dhikr of Allah brings contentment to the heart. And we learned about arguments, like there's no point in arguing with people. I'm right, you're wrong, my religion is right, your religion is wrong. No, we don't want to be doing this. We are not here to try and prove a point. We're not here to argue with people. We're not here to sort of like make people think that we're better than them, or we're not here to say that we are better than anybody else. Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala guides, Allah guides whom He wills. So when we see that people are not on the straight and narrow, or not on what we are on, then try and find a happy middle ground where you have things in common. Like in Christianity, we have Jesus, and in the Quran we have Jesus. So we can speak about, yes, we have Jesus. It's in the Quran. He's the prophet of Allah. His mother was Mary. She was a chaste woman. She was the result of the prayer of her mother, which was the grandmother of Jesus. So just sort of like things that people are familiar with, and they can associate with. So you're not here to prove your point. You're not here to argue, because arguments do not work. So try and come up with some common ground when you're trying to do dawah, or when you're trying to explain to somebody about Islam. And Quran is the word of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. It is not the word of the Prophet sallallahu alaihi wasallam. It is the word of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. It is revelation. So the Quran is revelation coming down to us from our Lord who created us. So remember that we were created by the one that wrote this book. So He wrote this book for us, to tell us that this is what you need to live your life with. So and the Quran is a miracle in itself. It is preserved in the chest of men and women. You will, there are countless hafiz and hafizas in the community. We can't even begin to think how many there are. And the Quran is the only book that people have preserved in their hearts, that people do know of by heart. And it's a huge book, and you can imagine how you would think it's really difficult. But the people that actually study it, the people that actually have done hifz of it, they will tell you it's really easy. They will tell you how Allah made it easy for them. And we should try and sort of like capture sort of like portions of it in our heart as well. We should try to have bits, surahs, ayahs, du'as from the Quran captured in our heart as well. We should try and learn them as we go along. And it's never too late to learn anything. We can learn something whenever we are. It doesn't, age isn't a barrier. We always think age is an excuse. We don't want to learn something now. We're just too old for this. We're going to let our children learn. The fact is, your children learn for themselves, and you learn for yourselves. So it's not really an excuse to say that, I can't learn this. You can, if you put your mind to it and you make dua to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, you will be able to learn the Quran, you will be able to memorize it. And then we had the people who kept saying, when is Qiyamah, when's Qiyamah coming? The fact of the matter is, it's not when is Qiyamah coming, it's what have you prepared for it. Qiyamah, your Qiyamah will come on the day you die, because that's your mini Qiyamah. You have now started to see what is there for you after your life. So your Qiyamah is there. So people seem to think, when's Qiyamah, what's going to happen, look at the signs, do this. What you need to do is just remember that your Qiyamah has begun, because now you are, you have passed away, or you have died, and you are going to be facing the life of the grave, you are going to be facing the questions, you are going to see the angels at the moment of your death. So you will know the word of Allah is true. So what have you prepared for it? And even the people that disbelieve, the people who are not of the Muslim faith, the people who are not people who do not believe in Islam, they will too see the angels at the time of their death. They too will experience the life of the grave. So everyone will be experiencing this, and this will be your Qiyamah. So then we went on to learn that Allah's land is huge, it's vast. If you are having difficulty practicing your deen, then go somewhere else, then migrate. Because we often find people say, well, in here, in this country, we can't do this, that and the other. But I find that in this country, we can practice our faith, our religion, way better than we would be able to if we were in any other country. So don't sort of like make it an excuse that we can't practice our religion in this country because, or wherever you are, not just this country, but wherever you are, we can't practice this because of this, we can't practice that because of the other. You can practice what you like. So if you feel that really and truly you are not able to, then it says that Allah's land is vast and you are free to migrate elsewhere. And belief must manifest into actions in order to qualify for Jannah. We can't just say, everything's in my heart. I believe, I'm a good Muslim. I'm not going to pray, I'm not going to wear hijab, I'm not going to fast, but I believe in Allah. All those things are in my heart. Your belief must manifest in your actions. So we can't really, it's like, let's say a student of knowledge who goes to sit for exams and doesn't put anything on the paper saying that my knowledge is in my head. Your knowledge may be in your head, but you're not going to pass the exams if it's not on the paper, if the examiner doesn't see it. So same for us, that our beliefs must manifest into action. So we must do the actions in order to qualify for Jannah. And then another very beautiful thing that we learned was the fact that the responsibility of providing your rizq is in Allah's hands. So don't sort of like stress about it. We think that, what am I going to do? How am I going to live? Who's going to provide for me? Allah's going to provide for you. There's no, it says in certain books that your rizq actually looks for you. Just like your death will look for you when it's time for you to go. And it will find you. There's no way. You can never escape death. It will find you. Same like that, your rizq actually looks for you to sort of like present itself to you. So don't stress about how am I going to do this, how is this going to work, because we often have people who maybe, you know, don't have sons and think, oh, well, what am I going to do in old age? I'm going to be alone and nobody's going to provide for you. Allah's going to provide for you. And how many people do we know who do have sons and yet they still have, they're not around when they need them? No one is your, I can't really think of the word right now, but in Punjabi we use the word Sahara. No one can be that for you except Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. And we have temporary Saharas all through our lives. We have these temporary people that keep us going, but the main one in your life is Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, and Allah will keep things going for you and Allah will provide for you. And another thing we learned was to be grateful for everything you have, because gratefulness is what will seal your blessings, what will keep your blessings, what will make sure that your blessings don't disappear. Because if you're ungrateful, Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala gives you something and then you're ungrateful, then it's taken away. If you're grateful for everything, then Allah gives you more. So any blessing that you have, be grateful for it. And I know it's very hard to see what blessings we have, because we seem to think that the things we have a right over them, and because those things we've had them forever and we've never really had to work hard for them. And these, in this country, we're very lucky. These things are things like houses, cars, a good education, a safe environment. All these things, we seem to think that, yeah, well, they're just run-of-the-mill stuff. But they really are a blessing from Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. Your roof over your head is a blessing from Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. How many people do you know that have, how many people do you know that don't have roofs over their head? How many people do you know that do not have a vehicle to drive? How many people do you know that do not have a job to go to? So every single thing, even though you may have had it for a very long time and you may think that it's part of your life and it's, you know, it's something that's always been there and you don't think it's a huge blessing, it surely is a huge blessing. It is something that we have to be grateful for. So now we're starting Sura Ar Rum. This is the 30th surah in the Quran. And it's, if you translate it into English, it's the Surah of the Romans. It mentions many signs of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, that Allah's signs in this dunya that you see, you ponder and reflect upon. Let's begin our surah for today. أعوذ بالله من الشيطان الرجيم بسم الله الرحمن الرحيم. In the name of Allah, the most gracious, the most merciful. Alif Lam Mim. These letters are one of the miracles of the Quran. None but Allah alone knows their meaning. The Romans have been defeated in the nearest land, and they, after their defeat, will be victorious. Within 3 to 9 years, the decision of the matter before and after these events is only with Allah. And on that day, the believers, the Muslims, will rejoice. So the prediction given here, the news of the future that is given here, is that at the time, the Prophet ﷺ, there were the Byzantines, there were the Persians, and there were the Romans, and there were the the Romans were the Christians, and the Christians felt closer, or the Muslims felt closer to the Christians at the time, who were the Romans. But the Persians, they were the idolaters. So the mushriks of Makkah, they felt closer to them. So when the Romans were defeated, the mushrikeen of Makkah were very happy. But these verses were revealed that within a few years, the Romans will be victorious again. And on the same day, the Muslims will rejoice, but for something else, for another reason. And when these verses were revealed, the Muslims didn't know what the other reason would be. They found out on the day of Badr, because when they were victorious at Badr, on the same day, they had news that that the Romans were victorious as well. So they got the news on that day, and that's when they realized that this is what it was talking about, that the Muslims will receive news on the same day as they have another happiness to be celebrating. With the help of Allah, He helps whom He wills, and He is the Almighty, the most merciful. It is a promise of Allah, and Allah fails not in His promises, but most of men know not. So when a person is defeated, or even when you feel that you have been defeated, it makes you very sad, it makes you worried. And at times like that, you need the comfort. You need people around you to comfort you. You need to be told that things will change, things do change. And you often find that when you're in a dark place, instead of telling that person that, oh, you're there and you're going to be there forever, you need to make sure that you yourself know, and if you're advising somebody else, that things will change for them. They need to be told that the loss is not permanent. And the Quran brings us so much hope. The Quran tells us about these things, that any loss is not permanent. Whatever you have in this dunya, in the form of loss, it'll soon go. Whatever you have in the form of a blessing, that may too expire as well. So you realize that defeat is not permanent, and it is not something that defines you. It's not that just because you've lost something once or you've failed at something once, that is who you are. Failure is an event in life. It's not something that defines who you are. It is something that is short-lived, which means that it will go away in a short time. So your failure, it will soon disappear, and you will, because you're still going strong and you're looking to be victorious, you sure will be. Even though sometimes the days feel really long, but if you look at it from another angle, the years are truly short. And that's why it's truly important that we keep ourselves connected with the Quran, with hope, with the, knowing that Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala is going to pull us out. So Allah will lift us up, and Allah will, bring us good in the near future. They know only the outside appearance of the life of the world, and they are heedless of the hereafter. And this knowing only the outside appearance of this world, it's the case as in the majority of us, in the majority of people that we have in this dunya. We're very skilled in certain ways, we're very knowledgeable about the dunya. But when it comes to the hereafter, then certain facts we do not know. We do not know about, is there resurrection? Is there going to be hisab? Is there Jannah? Is there the fire? We don't know the basic stuff. And yet in the worldly stuff, we're experts. Hassan al-Basri said that there is amongst people who can scratch a coin with his fingernail, and they can tell you how much it weighs just by touching it, just by the feel of it. He can tell you how much that coin weighs, but he does, and when you actually weigh that coin, it will be as he said. It will weigh exactly like he had said. But you ask him how to pray or what to pray, and he does not know. So his worldly knowledge is fantastic and cannot be criticized, but his knowledge of the deen is very, very weak, very basic. Meaning, when it comes to the worldly matters, they're experts, they're experienced, they're skilled. But when it comes to the matters of the deen, they're completely ignorant. And there are many people who are like this. And although, this is something that, we should not judge other people, and we should not think that this is others. It's only to show us that we need to reflect on ourselves. So anytime we learn something, we must reflect on ourselves rather than thinking, oh, it's her, or it's him, or it's the other. So we see that a lot of people, when it comes to worldly matters, because you earn money from those worldly skills, those worldly knowledge, the skills and so on, we know everything, and we make sure that we learn it properly. But when it comes to the hereafter, because that's not here yet, it's it's in the Quran. People may still be sort of like on the umming and eyeing stage. They're rather careless about it. We learn in a hadith that there is nothing that will bring you close to Jannah except that I have ordered you. This is the Prophet ﷺ saying that there is nothing that will bring you closer to Jannah except that I have ordered you to do so. And there is nothing that will draw you close to hell except that I have forbidden you from it. So remember that if you want to get closer to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, you want to get closer to Jannah, then the Quran and the authentic hadith are your sources. Not him, her, who's telling you, well, let's do this and let's do that, and there's so much ajr in this and there's so much ajr in that, and yet the Quran and the hadith do not explain that. But the Quran, read the Quran in a language that you understand, and it will, it will make you closer to Allah. It will bring you that, that love for the Deen. It will bring you closer to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. Ayah number 8. Okay, is it 8? Yes, it's 8. Do they not think deeply in their own selves about themselves? How Allah created them from nothing, and similarly He will resurrect them. Allah has created not the heavens and the earth and all that is between them, except with truth and for an appointed term. And indeed many of mankind deny the meeting with their Lord. Do they not travel in the land and see what was the end of those before them? They were superior to them in strength, and they tilled the earth and populated it in greater numbers than these pagans have done. And there came to them their messengers with clear proofs. Surely Allah wronged them not, but they used to wrong themselves. So if you stop and think about the people, the nations of the past, there were, or what they had done, and you look at things like the pyramids that were built at the time of the Pharaoh, they're still standing now. What technology did they use? We probably don't have that technology now, because nothing that we build now stands for that long. We don't even know what they had used. So Allah's telling us that, have you not looked, have you not traveled the land and seen, what's around? That those people were far greater than you. They had more strength, they had more money, they had more power, but they were still destroyed because of their actions. So this is telling us that we have to look at ourselves and look at our actions. Ayah number 10. Then evil was the end of those who did evil, because they denied the signs of Allah and made a mockery of them. Allah alone originates the creation, and He will repeat it. Then to Him you will be returned. And on the day when the hour will be established, the criminals will be plunged into destruction with deep regret and despair. No intercessor will they have from those whom they made equal to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, and they will reject and deny their partners. And on the day when the hour will be established, the day shall all men be separated. Then, as for those who believed and did righteous good works, such shall be honoured and made to enjoy a luxurious life forever and ever in a garden of delight. And as for those who disbelieved and denied our signs and the meeting of the hereafter, such shall be brought forth to the torment. So glorify Allah when you come up in the evening and when you enter the morning. So when it speaks about the morning and the evening, we seem to take things for granted. We seem to think that morning, yes, morning's there, so what, it's going to be morning. But the morning is a blessing for you. The evening is a blessing for you. So every single time that we reach the morning, we should say Alhamdulillah. We should do the adhkars of the morning. That you've seen a new morning. Allah has blessed you with this time, so you've got another day to add good to your scales. And every time we see the evening, again we should be grateful that Allah has shown you the evening. Do the adhkars of the evening, that you have more to add to your scales again. So it's another blessing that we have received, that each day and each night that we are granted, because you just don't know when that day will come, when we will be in our graves. I'm sure you've all heard about the brother that passed away, a very knowledgeable sheikh who really, really inspired me. And we've actually been to courses that he ran from the Al-Maghrib Institute as well in London. Brother Muhammad Al-Sharif passed away. No illnesses, no nothing, just suddenly passed away. And this can happen to anybody. He was only 47 years of age. So any time that we have, the morning, the afternoon, the evening, it's the time is blessings, the blessing to us. So we should try and make the most of it. And that brother, mashallah, in his short life, he's done so much, and he's earned so much reward. He's probably done so much good, and he's inspired so many people. He surely inspired me. I absolutely admired the brother, and went to many of his classes that he did in London. Now, ayah number 18. And His are all praise and thanks in the heavens and the earth. And glorify Him in the afternoon when you come up to the time, and when the day begins to decline. And this is explained by Ibn Abbas, saying that they are the 5 compulsory congregational prayers. He brings out the living from the dead and brings out the dead from the living. And he revives the earth after its death, and thus shall you be brought out. So we see the power to create things and their opposites only lies with Allah. So these ayahs which come one after another, they are all the same. They all mention how Allah created things, and their opposites. It indicates that His creation and the perfection of His power. So He creates the plant from the seed and the seed from the plant. He creates the egg from the chicken and the chicken from the egg. Creates man from sperm and sperm from man. So you can see that you have one or the other, and you think, well, if you didn't have one, how would you have this if you didn't have this? And then you think, well, you can't have that with the other. So it's Allah that creates them. He creates the living from the dead from the living. So an egg doesn't have life in it, but a chicken does have life. So for the chicken gives an egg which is dead, but it brings life, and so on. So it's really, really, if you look at it, the signs of Allah are so brilliant. And He creates the believers from disbelievers and the disbelievers from believers. So you will find that you have people who believe and they have children who will not believe. And then you have people who do not believe. They have non-believers. They've been non-believers for generations. And they have certain children, or they will have children in their family that will grow up to believe. So this is all the miracles of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. And amongst His sign is that He created you, Adam, from dust, and then Hawa from Adam's rib, then his offspring from the semen. And behold, you are human beings scattered. And again, this speaks about the might and the power. The fact that Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala created our father, Adam, out of dust. So a man's origin or a woman's origin, our origins lie in dust, the thing that we walk on. And then in despised fluid, then he is formed into a clot, then a lump of flesh, then bones, and then he is formed into a human being. So Allah clothes the bones with flesh, and then the soul is breathed into him, and he can hear and he can see. And we did this in a previous ayah as well, where we learnt about the pregnancy, and when it's 4 months, Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala sends down the angel, and the angel writes down certain things and so on. So it's all explained again and again in the Quran in different ways, so it's for us to understand. So when he comes forth from his mother's womb, small and weak. So when a man or a woman are born, they're small and weak, and they cannot do anything for themselves. But the longer he lives in this dunya, the longer he is alive, he becomes strong, and then he reaches an age where he can do whatever he likes. He can build cities, he can travel to different lands, he can travel on the sea, and he does what he wants to do. He earns a living, he amasses wealth, he does crafts or arts or whatever it is. He can achieve whatever he wants to achieve. And then what happens? There comes a time when he can't do any of these things. So Allah created Adam from a handful of earth, from a handful of soil from earth, which is varied. So it was bits of earth from all over the place, all over the world. And that is why we have the variety of people, we have the variety of colors of skins, we have the variety of people, and so on. And amongst His sign is that He created for you wives from amongst yourselves, that you may find repose in them. And He has put between you affection and mercy. Verily in that are indeed signs of people who reflect. So this is another beautiful ayah which needs a lot of reflection. We can only give it so much in our short time that we have here together. Meaning that your spouse, your partner, is from a species, from the same species as you are, from your own species. They're human beings too. That you find tranquility and peace in them. So peace and tranquility in them. And Lady Hawa was made from Adam's rib. Not to say that all women are made from their husband's rib. No, only Hawa was made from Adam's rib. And it's not as if there's competition between men and women, because we often find that we tend to compete with each other. There's no competition. We are from one another. We're the same. We're from the same source. And here it says that you have mutual love, affection, mercy, kindness, compassion between a husband and wife. And that is one of the signs of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. Because the two are not related, they're probably not even from the same country sometimes, they don't have the same upbringing. I mean, sometimes they're related and they're from the same family, the same place, but a majority of the time they're not going to be from the same place, they're not going to be from the same background. And the two come together and alhamdulillah, they create a new home, they create their children, they live in peace and harmony. And sometimes they're from two completely different parts of the world. And as they come together, they fall in love, and there's so much more to life than that they create themselves. And this shows us the objectives of marriage, that we get married to find peace and tranquility, sukoon and tranquility through our spouses. Okay, so, you know, sometimes we think, well, that's not the case, we're not finding sukoon and tranquility. If your marriage is not bringing you sukoon, it's not bringing you tranquility, and on the contrary, it's bringing you pain and suffering, and there's abuse in the marriage, then this defeats the purpose of marriage. And if it's not bringing you sukoon, then it's, you know, bringing you constant pain, it's bringing you suffering, then perhaps it is not supposed to continue. And I know we sort of think, oh my God, this is a really terrible thing to say and do. If it's not bringing you sukoon and suffering, and then we also, in certain cultures, which are far away from Islam, we forbid the option of divorce, because we think, no, you know, we can't get divorced, this is haram. And divorce is not haram, but you know, we do in certain cultures, we say that it is haram. A person is not required to live in a relationship that is destroying them. A person is not required to live in a relationship that's bringing them grief and suffering on a daily basis. Why? Because Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala has legislated the option of divorce. We tend to borrow other negative things from other religions, from other cultures. And the concept of staying together until death do us apart. This was never an Islamic concept. This we borrowed this from the Christians, or the concept that you're leaving my house in one of those dollies, and I want you to leave your husband's house on a janazah bed. That's not an Islamic concept. We must never say that to our daughters. We must never say that to our children, because that gives them the expression that that's it, you know, whatever life throws at them, they just have to suffer in silence. And suffering in silence is not sabr, because we seem to think that sabr and suffering in silence are the same thing. But suffering in silence is not the same thing as sabr. Sabr is being patient and then working towards making your situation better. Suffering in silence is just doing nothing and being miserable for a very long time and just hoping that someone else will make things better for you. So we must be very pro that we have to be happy in our marriages. And then we have concepts of don't bring shame to the family by coming back. These are all borrowed from other religions or customs, or sort of like other people that we lived with. Like in Pakistan, we lived with the Sikhs and the Hindus. So we have a lot of their customs, like you can't come back after you got married, you've got to stay there, you have to live and die in that house, and then, you know, till death do us apart, we got from the Christians. Reason being that if you are miserable on a daily basis, then you're not going to be a productive Muslim. You're not going to be looking after the family as you are to be. You're not going to be bringing children up to be as strong and tranquil and peace-loving and Islam-loving as they should be. You're going to be embroiled in your misery, and that misery is going to reflect on your children, and they are going to think that this is normal. You're supposed to be miserable in your marriage. If you're not miserable in your marriage, then that's not a marriage. So they're going to be thinking it's a very normal thing, and they're going to be doing the same. So Islam says that sort of thing, no, this is what marriage is about. Marriage brings sukoon, peace and tranquility, and the love and mercy of Allah. Allah onto a couple who show love and mercy to each other. So show love and mercy to each other and ask Allah to give you love and mercy. Because if you don't show love and mercy, and the couples that don't fear Allah, then they become disrespectful, they become abusive, they neglect one another's rights, and the marriage becomes a living hell, and all you're doing is living day by day. And we find a lot of people doing that within our community. They will live for the day because they don't want other people to say, oh, she's divorced, oh, your sister got divorced, oh, your so-and-so got divorced. It's better to be a complete person alone than to be a person who's half gone mad in a relationship. So we show compassion to everyone, don't we? We show compassion to our animals, we show compassion to our pets and so on, but we don't show compassion to our spouses, to our wives and so on. Because sometimes you see people, and a man outside the house, wow, what a nice man, oh, your husband's such a lovely bloke. As soon as he comes into the house, that's it, everything is silent, pin drop silent, and you can't even breathe. So your spouse, especially a wife, she deserves the love and the compassion from a man. And what does that look like? It means that he understands her needs, he cares about her needs, he provides for her, he asks her what she needs, he looks after all her needs, her physical, her emotional, her standards and so on, everything. He actually helps her around the house. He does whatever she wants to do, but she cannot do, or she's probably a bit slower than him, so he should be helping her with all of this. So you are supporting each other, but the men are more able to support the women. But we often find that women support men more. The women will be working, and then they'll be coming home and they'll be doing everything around the house, and the man will just be sitting there with his cup of tea. So you are supposed to be, the men are supposed to be taking more care of the women than. Of course, the women have their duties as well, but we often feel that it's just the woman with the duties, and the man is, free to do what he likes. We learn in a hadith that the most beloved of servants of Allah, so the most beloved person to Allah, are those who are most beneficial to their families. And mercy towards your spouse means that you show them love and let that love be known to them. Don't sort of think, oh well, I'm just being stern because I don't want them to be spoiled. No, let them know that you love them and you care for them. And it's got to be, both-sided. And of course, there's going to be disagreements. There's going to be mistakes made because you're only human, and humans will offend each other. They will hurt one another unknowingly. But it's the fact that you don't dwell on these things. It's the fact that you don't prolong them. You're going to have conflicts. Deal with them and get over it. You're going to say things to each other. Deal with it and get over it. So you're not, it's not to say that you're never going to argue. You will argue. You will have times when there's going to be things said, but don't sort of like cross a certain limit. And of course, you're not perfect and your husband's not perfect. Either, you as a human being, you will have your faults and he will have his faults. And you see each other's faults more because you live with each other. You're closest to each other, you see each other's faults. And the Prophet ﷺ said that no believing man should hate a believing woman. When he said a believing woman, he means his wife. If there is something that he dislikes about her, there will be other things that he likes about her. Because so there's going to be things that you're going to dislike about a person. But then there's going to be things that that person does really, really well, and you're going to be really admiring that. So things that, there are going to be things about your spouse that are going to annoy you, but don't focus on them. Focus on their strength, focus on their goodness, focus on what good they have to offer you, and show love and mercy to each other. And Allah, it says that it is Allah who created you from a single person, and then created from him his wife. So this is speaking about Adam, peace be upon him, in order that he might enjoy the pleasure of living with her. and this refers to Hawa, Lady Hawa. Allah created her from Adam's short rib on the left-hand side. So Allah, if Allah had created all the men from the human race, and let's just say all the women from the jinn race, do you think that would really be harmonious? Do you think that they would have a better lifestyle then? It wouldn't. So Allah has created men and women from one species. Ayah number 22. And amongst this sign is the creation of the heavens and the earth, and the differences of your language and colour. Verily in that are indeed signs for men of sound knowledge. If you look at the heavens, look at the heavens and its vast heights, and the brightness and the beauty of the stars and the planets, and then you look at the earth, the density of the earth, the mountains, the valleys, the seas, the plains, the animals, the trees. Look at the languages that we speak. We speak, some people speak Urdu, some speak English, some speak Arabic, Turkish, French, all sorts of different languages. And Allah knows all these languages. Allah is the one that created these languages. And Allah knows what mankind speak. And the difference of their color mentioned here refers to their appearance. For the people of this world, from the time of Adam until the time will come to an end, till the hour will come, they will all be, they'll have 2 eyes, 2 ears, a nose, a mouth, 2 cheeks, but none of them will look like the other. No one person looks like the other, regardless of their posture, their appearance, speech. Whatever it is, they may look similar, but they will not look exactly the same as one another. And this variation is a sign of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala's greatness. Diversity is a miracle of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. But what do? We use this diversity to discriminate against one another. He's from this, he's black, or he's white, or he's Asian. We don't want to know. Depending on who you are, you don't want to know whoever the others are from. So this diversity is a miracle of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, and we should embrace that diversity. Ayah number 23. And amongst his sign is your sleep by day, by night, and by day, and your seeking of his bounty. Verily in that are indeed signs for a people who listen. And amongst this sign is that he shows you the lightning, for fear and for hope, and he sends down water, rain from the sky, and therewith revives the earth after its death. Verily in that are indeed signs for a people who understand. And amongst his sign is the heaven and the earth. Stand by his command. Then afterwards, when he will call you by a single call, behold, you will come out from the earth. To him belongs whatever is in the heavens and the earth. All are obedient to him. And he it is who originates the creation. Then he will repeat it after it has been perished. And this is easier for him. This is the highest description in the heavens and the earth. And he is the Almighty, the All-Wise. And he sets forth for you a parable from your own selves. Do you have partners amongst those whom your right hand possesses, to share as equal in your wealth? We have bestowed on you whom you fear, as you fear each other. Thus do we explain the signs in details to a people who have sense. So, do we have partners amongst the people that our right hand possesses? So our right hand possesses basically means your servants or slaves that people would have at the time. Now you could say, let's say, people that work for you, your cleaners or people that drive for you. If the wealth that Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala has given you, let's say that we're very, very wealthy, would we share it with our cleaner? Would we share it with the next person? Would we share it with the person that drives us to the airport? We wouldn't. We would not share it with them. And yet, because we feel that they're not equal to us, and yet we associate others to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala and say that they are equal to Allah. So if you have money, would you give complete ownership of that money, of equal authority, just to another random person? Any random person. Doesn't have to be your cleaner, doesn't have to be your taxi driver, anybody. Would you? Of course we wouldn't. And as human beings, we are so greedy with our wealth, and we would never want to share it with others. But then we think, we don't want others to become partners with us. So why do we think that Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala has a partner? Why do we think that Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala has a child? How is that possible? You don't want anybody equal to you, yet you are quite happy to have people who are, or someone who is equal to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. Ayah number 29. Nay, but those who do wrong follow their own lust without knowledge. Then who will guide him whom Allah has sent astray? And for such there will be no helper. So set you, O Muhammad sallallahu alayhi wa sallam, your face towards the religion of Hanif, Allah's fitrah, with which He has created mankind. No change let there be in Khalq Allah. That is the straight religion, but most of men know not. So in this ayah we learn about the fitrah that Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala has created people upon. So fatara is to open up, and fatir is the creator, the originator. So fitrah, it is that Allah opens us up and puts something inside. It's like saying that there's something in our DNA, in our genetic makeup. It is something that is already in us. It is nature. It is Allah that has created us upon this nature. And what is this nature that Allah created us on? That we submit to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. And our natural disposition is to surrender to Allah, to worship Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. That is our fitrah, which causes us to submit to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. The Prophet ﷺ said that every child is born upon the fitrah, upon the nature. And what is this nature? What does this fitrah teach us? It teaches that Allah is our Lord, Allah is our God. It teaches us morality. Because of this, because of our conscience, we feel bad when we do something wrong. So we know the difference between right and wrong. So this nature that Allah has created upon us, but then what happens? In a hadith we learn that every child is born upon the fitrah, then his parents make him Jew, Christian, whatever the religion that they choose to make him. So it's the nurture that corrupts a person. That is why Allah sent revelation. That is why Allah sends prophets. The prophets are sent to nurture people into Islam. So when they have been nurtured by their parents into something else, the revelation will nurture them back if they ever get hold of the revelation, if they ever read it. And this is why we are encouraged, we are told to share the Quran with people, because these people, they read the Quran and it actually goes into your heart, it actually sits in with you, and people do take note, and people will change if they learn what the Quran says. Ayah number 31. And remain always turning in repentance to Him only, and be afraid and dutiful to Him, and perform as-salah, and be not of the mushrikun, and those who split up their religion and become sects, each sect rejoicing in that which is with them. And when harm touches men, they cry sincerely only to their Lord, turning to Him in repentance. But when He gives them a taste of His mercy, behold, a party of them associate partners in worship with their Lord, so as to be ungrateful for the grace which we have bestowed on them. Then enjoy your short life, but you will come to know. Or have we revealed to them an authority which speaks of that which they have not? They have been associating with Him. And when we cause mankind to taste of mercy, then rejoice therein. They rejoice therein. But when some evil afflicts them because of that their own hands have sent forward, behold, they are in despair. Notice it is said here that when evil afflicts them, it is because of what their hands have put forth. Meaning that because of your own actions, because of what you do, it is important that when we're struck by difficulty, we don't begin to despair, but we just look at what we are doing. Being in despair is not going to take your problem away. It's not going to help your situation. So it is when we change our actions, it is when we change what we do, that is what will change our situation. So when we are in a difficult situation, then just sit back and have a little think about what it is that you do. and how you can change that, and how that can bring you closer to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. Ayah number 37. Do they not see that Allah enlarges the provision of whom He wills and strengthens it for whom He wills? Verily in that are indeed signs for a people who believe. So give to the kindred his due, and the needy, and to the wayfarer. That is best for those who seek Allah's face, and it is they who will be successful. In this ayah, we are being told that give to the relative their right. Then, of course, the needy and the traveller. So, if we talk about the relatives, it's sometimes we just think that when we talk about poor people, it's poor people outside the family. But your relatives have rights over you. So again and again, we are told about our relatives and our rights, the rights that they have on us. So if you want to benefit yourself, then spend on your relatives, as well as the wayfarer and the needy and so on. Generally, when we think about giving money, we think about giving it only to the poor, only to charities, only to someone that we see that's got absolutely nothing, no food, no nothing. We think we're giving it to them. Sometimes people can have good clothes, people can have a house to live in, but they do not have food. They do not have someone that is earning. They themselves are not at the time working, if it's a male relative who should be working. They themselves are not working due to an accident, ill health or something. We should be helping them at that time. So charity, of course, is for the poor, but if you give it to your relative, then you get twice the reward. One for helping your relatives, and two for giving charity. And people who are hungry, people who are in need, of course, we spend on them, but we also spend on our relatives. And this is something which will increase your risk. It will increase your sustenance. And of course, like we said, the charity will bring you double reward. In a hadith, we learn that giving charity to a needy person is a charity, but giving charity to a relative brings double reward. One for charity and one for being good to a relative, because Allah has commanded us to do this. And the best form of charity, remember, is to give to a relative who is al-kashi. So what is al-kashi? It is someone who is estranged, so to speak, as in, he doesn't want you to know where he is and he's gone away and you're never going to find him. Or a secret enemy, so the two. So your relatives that are estranged, that don't want you to seek them out. And the relatives that really don't like you, then give to them as well. So we know, that certain people, they probably don't like you, or they try and avoid you, or they're probably mean to you. And you think, let's stay away from them. You can stay away from them if you want to, but spend on them as well, if you can. So your relatives, you do have a duty to spend on the relatives. And that which you give as gift, in order that it may increase your wealth by expecting to get a better one in return from another's property, has no increase with Allah. But that which you give in zakat, seeking Allah's face, then those they shall have manifold increase. So when you give or take interest, apparently it may seem as your money is growing, but in reality it is not. But when you give zakat, desiring the face of Allah, then that is multiplied for you. So even though you're giving zakat and you're thinking you're just giving and you're not going to get anything in return, in actual fact you get much more in return. So giving your zakat is one of the pillars of Islam, and you must make sure that we do pay our zakat once a year, and it's only 2.5% of your savings which you have had more than a year. So your savings include things like your gold and your silver and so on. And we, with our relatives, we give them zakat, but we also spend on them otherwise as well, like we learned earlier. We should remember that there's both types of spending, the sadaqah and the zakat. And the zakat is an obligation, and you have to fulfill that obligation. It's a fard, it's a pillar. And sadaqah, that is over and above. So that's going to be bringing you more reward. And giving zakat will save a person from fear and grief in the hereafter. It protects a person from the evil of their own wealth, from the shar of their wealth. In a hadith that we learn, whoever gives zakat of his wealth, then the shar, the evil of his wealth, will go away. It purifies the wealth, and when a person gives zakat, they also fulfill their obligations, and they will be amongst the Siddiqeen and the Shahada on the Day of Judgment. And giving zakat draws you closer to paradise. It takes you away from the hellfire. It means it is a means of entry into paradise. So really take your zakat seriously. Look at it. Think, how much do I need to give? And don't be really miserly and think, well, I only need to give this, so I'm only going to give that. Give more than what you have to give, because often people think, well, I've only had this for this many years, but this one's not been a whole year. Just do it on the whole lot, and ask Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala to reward you for it. Ayah number 40. Allah is He who created you, then provided food for you, then will cause you to die, then again He will give you life on the day of resurrection. Is there any of your so-called partners of Allah that do anything of that? Glorified and exalted is He above all that they associate with Him. Evil has appeared on land and sea because of what the hands of men have earned, that He may make them taste a part of that which they have done, in order that they may return. Say, O Muhammad sallallahu alaihi wasallam, travel in the land and see what was the end of those before you. Most of them were mushrikeen. So set you, O Muhammad sallallahu alaihi wasallam, your face in obedience to Allah, your Lord, to the straight and right religion, Islam, before there comes from Allah a day which none can avert. On that day men shall be divided into two groups, a group in paradise and a group in hell. Whosoever disbelieves will suffer from his disbelief, and whosoever does righteous good deeds, then such will prepare a good place for themselves and will be saved by Allah from His torment, that He may reward those who believe and do righteous good deeds out of His bounty. Verily He likes not the disbelievers. And amongst His sign is that He sends the winds as glad tidings, giving you a taste of His mercy, and that the ships may sail at His command, and that you may seek His bounty, in order that you may be thankful, and indeed in order that you may be thankful. So this shows us that when the wind blows, it blows by the command of Allah. So we should never curse the wind. Oh, it's too windy. And we often complain, it's too windy, it's too cold, it's too hot, it's snowing, it's raining. Anything that is happening, we are complaining about it. We've had the sun and we complain about the sun. We have the snow, we complain about the snow. We have winter, we complain about winter. So anything that happens, whatever the weather is, always be grateful to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala and do not complain. And the Prophet ﷺ told us that do not curse the wind. It is only doing what Allah has commanded it to do. So instead make dua, ask Allah for its good. And the dua that is mentioned is, Oh Allah, I ask you for its goodness, the good that it has been sent with, and the good that it is in it, and the good that it has been sent with. And I seek your protection from its evil, the evil that it has been sent with, and the evil that is in it. And the same goes for the rain. So when you have the rain, you make the dua that Allah give us the good that is in the rain. When it's, whatever is happening, Allah give us the good that is in this. And another dua is that, oh Allah, make the wind fertilizing and not barren. Ayah number 49. And verily before that, just before it was sent down upon them, they were in despair. And before that, it is referring to the rain. Look then at the effects of Allah's mercy, how He revives the earth after its death. Verily that shall indeed raise the dead on the day of resurrection, and He is able to do all things. And if we send a wind and they see their tilth turn yellow, behold, they then would become unthankful. as disbelievers. So verily you, O Muhammad sallallahu alaihi wasallam, cannot make the dead to hear, nor can you make the deaf to hear the call when they show their backs and turn away. And you, O Muhammad sallallahu alaihi wasallam, cannot guide the blind from their straying, and you can make to hear only those who believe in our signs and have submitted to Allah in Islam as Muslims. Allah is He who created you in a state of weakness, then gave you strength after weakness. Then after strength He gave you weakness and grey hair. He creates what He wills, and it is He who is the all-knowing, the all-powerful. So subhanallah, again we learn about the creation of being weak and then having strength and then going back. So utter weakness at the beginning, then we grow, then we think we can jump up to the skies and we can do what we like, and then things begin to decline. Then we have the weakness again. This is from the signs of Allah. So the purpose of this is that we should remember our reality, and that we should never become proud, that we should realize that Allah has complete power over all our faculties. Just like a child is born and they can't move, an elderly person sometimes can't move. Just as a child can't defend themselves, can't look after themselves, an elderly person will be the same. So your beginning of life and your end of life is very, very similar. It's very, you are dependent on others. So as a child you depend on your parents, and as an elderly person you depend on your children. So it's only that short time in between where we think that we're the business and what we know nobody else knows, and we can do this and we can do the other, and we're just the best thing going, not realizing that it's a short time. Look at how you were when you were between 0 and 10 or 12, and then now whatever age you are, if you're 70 or 80, it's just a very short time in between where you think that you know everything, and you can go and break the stars and bring them down to this world. And in actual fact, Allah has complete power over all your faculties. So you can see something, at a certain time in your life, and then comes old age and you can hardly see anything. You can hear a pin drop at a certain age in your life. And then when you're elderly, people can shout at you and you can't hear what they are saying. So your faculties are under the control of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. Allah has power over all. Allah has power over everything. Ayah number 55. And on the day that the hour will be established, the criminals will swear that they stayed not but an hour. Thus were they ever deluded. Meaning that the life in this dunya, people are deluded. They think they will stay here. They always have this thing that they're going to live forever. We all think we're going to live forever. We've got long plans. We're going to do this next year. We're going to do this the year after. We're going to do this when our grandchildren are born. Not knowing that we do not know how long we have in this dunya. So we're really deluded about our life. We think we're going to be here forever. We completely forget the hereafter. And on the day of judgment, they will say, oh, we lived only for a short time. They will say a day or half a day, an hour or half an hour. So it will be that short, even though now we think, oh, life seems to be strolling along, and it's, we've got a fair bit of time. But at that time, it will not seem like a fair bit of time. Ayah number 56, and those who have been bestowed with knowledge and faith will say, indeed, you have stayed according to the decree of Allah until the day of resurrection. So this is the day of resurrection, but you knew not. So if you notice the combination of ilm and iman, the faith and knowledge. So there's two combinations that Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala puts those two together. They are mentioned together, and this is something that benefits a person in this life and on the day of judgment will be your ilm and your faith, your knowledge and your faith. So you can have knowledge, but if you don't have faith, then that knowledge is no good. And if you have faith, but your faith doesn't have the clarity of the knowledge, then that faith is not going to benefit you much either. So faith and knowledge, ilm and iman, both together, these are the things that will benefit you this dunya, and they will benefit you in the hereafter. Ayah number 57. So on the day, no excuses of theirs will avail those who did wrong, nor will they be allowed to return to seek Allah's pleasure. And indeed, we have set forth for mankind in this Quran every kind of parable. But if you, O Muhammad sallallahu alaihi wasallam, bring to them any sign, any proof, the disbelievers are sure to say to the believers, you follow nothing but falsehood and magic. And thus does Allah seal up their hearts of those who know not. And thus does Allah seal up the hearts of those who know not. So be patient, O Muhammad sallallahu alaihi wasallam. Verily the promise of Allah is true. And let not those who have no certainty of faith discourage you from conveying Allah's message, which you are obliged to convey. So, so this last ayah explains to us that, you know, some people will not be convinced, they will not have conviction, they will be weak, they will get taken in by other people. Don't be affected by them. You be strong, you do your learning. Like we said, ilm and iman, knowledge and faith, we have to have both of them. So we have to go out and do our own learning, bring faith into our lives, bring knowledge into our lives, and learn from the original sources like the Quran and the Sunnah. So that is the end, ayah number 60. Let's do a quick summary of what we learned today. We learned that have they not travelled through the land and observed what was the end of those before them? And the example that was mentioned was the pyramids in Egypt. We travelled to Egypt to look at the pyramids, and we do wow, and we're sort of like, look at that. But we don't know the story behind the pyramids. Who were the people that built the pyramids? It was the Bani Israel, who were the slaves at the time. So you can imagine the torment that they went through. And it was Pharaoh's people that did all the big stuff, there's construction and so on. And if you look at them, they're still standing today. And yet we have places where they've built new and wonderful things, and you look at them and a couple of years later, they're literally fallen to the ground. So it's Allah's way of showing that these things, Allah, those people before us, they were created, they must have had more power, they must have had more strength than we did. It's stated in the Quran that they had more power, they had more strength than what we have now. But they still died. There still is no no mention of them anymore, except in the Quran to teach us a lesson. Because if we were traveling in the world, nobody would mention anybody to us. But the Quran mentions to us that these were the people that lived on this earth, but now they are no more. They were very powerful, they had strength, they had money, they had everything. But what do they have now? They have nothing. They didn't have any iman, so they will not be looked after by Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala begins the creation, and He will repeat the creation. So to say, where did we come from and where are we going? Allah's brought us into this dunya, and Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala will take us away from this dunya. And every time we enter a morning, every time we enter an evening, we should know that this is a blessing that we have received from Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. So do your morning adhkars, do your evening adhkars, be thankful that Allah has given you the morning and given you that afternoon, that evening, has given you that time to add to your record of good, add to your book of good deeds, so you can have that weighing heavy on your scales in the hereafter. And then it spoke about the Allah brings living out of the dead and the dead out of the living. And we had the example of the chicken and the egg and the chicken and the sperm and the man and the sperm. So it's we learned that that's Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. Allah can do what He likes. Allah can bring the dead from the living from the dead. So everything in this dunya is lifeless unless Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala puts life into it. And then we learned about His signs. There were so many signs that we learned, that He created you from dust. Look at the dust. We still have dust, and we are from dust. So, and then He created mates for you. So Allah didn't create you and say, right, there you go, get on with life. Allah created that very special person that special person that will be with you all the time, that will encourage you and make you happy and make you move forward in life and be there for you, a partner, a spouse that Allah has created for you, so that you can find tranquility in them. Again, from His signs is the creation of the heavens, the creation of the earth. If you look at the heavens, you know, like when you sleep under the stars at night and you look at it and you just think, it is absolutely amazing. And you look at the earth, like when you go on holiday or when you're driving around, you look at it and you think it is so beautiful. Look at the beauty of it. And you see the people when you're out and about. They are different colors, they speak different languages, and the diversity of the people and the languages and the color. This is all the beauty of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, the beauty of the signs of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. And again, his sign is the night and the day. The night so we can rest, and the day that we can go out and find seek bounty from Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. And again, from His signs is the lightning, which causes us fear sometimes. And then Allah sends down the rain, again a sign from Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. That rain gives the lifeless earth life. So throughout winter, you see everything just dies. You know, the flowers have died. There's no, nothing growing. And come summer, the rain and the lush earth brings us everything again. So you see the earth becomes alive again. So you have nice green grass, you have roses growing, you have vegetables growing, you have everything. So like all sprouting up. And amongst this sign is the heaven and the earth. And they remain by His command. And amongst His sign is that Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala extends the provision of whom He wills and restricts the provisions of whom He wills. So that again, what you have is a sign from Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. What you have isn't like, I work hard, I've got a degree, I've got a really good job, and this is why I've got what I've got. It's the sign of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala that Allah's given you what He's given you. And if He's restricted you from something, that again is a sign from Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. A sign of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala when He's restricted you from something. And again, from His signs is the wind, which brings, good tidings and lets you taste His mercy, and the ships that sail in by His command. All these things are signs from Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. If you look at the ships that sail, if you go to Dover or if you go to Southampton or something and you stand at the port and you see them, these ships sail, and you drop a needle in, the needle will drown. But yet this ship, this huge, massive metal ship is sailing, and that is the sign of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. We also learned that we should spend on our relatives as well, regardless of whether they're poor or not. Then we should spend on them. If they're poor, then make it a regular monthly income that you send them. But if they're well off, then give them gifts when you see them. Take them for a coffee, ask them to come over. Make a nice banquet for them. So your relatives have rights over you. Spend on them, whatever that means to you. If it means spending your time with them, then spend your time with them as well. Spend your money, spend your time, and be good to the relatives. And Allah created you, Allah provided for you, Allah will cause you to die, and then He will give you life again. Do you think anybody else will be able to do that? And yet people think that Allah has partners. Allah does all these things for you. He provides for you, He created you, He provides for you, and He will cause you to die. Nobody else can do that for you. When you go to a saint or when you go to a grave and pray for something, did they create you? Did they provide for you? Are they going to cause you to die? Are they going to cause you to be resurrected? They're not going to. It's Allah that's done that. So why do you associate anybody to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala? And Allah is the one that created you from weakness. After that weakness, He gave you strength. And then after that strength, He gave you weakness and white hair. So He creates what He wills, and He is the all-knower and the competent. So be patient. Indeed, the promise of Allah is true. Subhanallah, that is the end of my summary. Is there anything anybody would like to add or discuss? Let's say goodbye to our Facebook friends and our